Hello and welcome to this second video looking at the vintage American Star Wars comics. So in this second video we're going to be having a look from the start of the adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back, which is issue number 39, which is this one, up to around issue 80-81 when they started introducing themes and characters that were seen in Return of the Jedi. So that's going to be the focus of this second video today. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Okay, so issue 39 begins the incredible Marvel Comics adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back. So by this time, I feel the Marvel artists had really got to grips with the characters and had plenty of time to hone their artistic skills. And I do believe the comic adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back to be one of the very best of them all. Just fantastic work. Al Williamson and Carlos Garzon, although Al Williamson is the one I remember the best, with the script being adapted by Archie Goodwin. Jim Shooter was the Marvel editor-in-chief, and this is a fantastic adaptation. I think you'd be hard pushed to find a better adaptation of a comic back in these days. It's just fantastic. So much better than the first one. I think predominantly because they just had a better grasp on what the characters are like. I would imagine that the Marvel comics team actually got to see the movie well in advance of the audience, so they were able to give an accurate rendition of what was actually going to be happening in the movie, but I think they did a very good job, and this particular adaptation, I'm sure you've read it 1,000 times, is fantastic and comes highly recommended. So this was the first part, and exactly the same as the first movie, A New Hope, they adapted it over 6 issues, and some of these are absolutely iconic in actual fact. So 39 being the first one then, and then number 40 with the great walkers. I mean, just once again, real grasp of the movie, an accurate rendition of the walkers there. That's another. Some of these covers now are real standouts compared to what we'd had up to this point. 41. This is the Falcon. Oh, one thing I should notice, they took the opportunity when Empire Strikes Back started to put the price up a bit, so they're up to 50 cents now. So 50 cents per issue. Still considerably cheaper than what they would cost you to get them today, I would imagine. But there's number 41, so that's right in the middle of the movie, with the Falcon being chased by by Darth Vader in the Star Destroyer, going through the thing there. Now this one's particularly sought after, number 42, and I've even got this one as a t-shirt in actual fact, and this is because it's the first comic book appearance of Boba Fett. So a bit like the world of superheroes, where a first appearance tends to be a little bit more expensive than another one. For example, Amazing Fantasy 15 is worth more than Spider-Man 1, or Detective 27 is worth more than a Batman 1, or a Hulk 181, first appearance of Wolverine, being worth more than, say, a Wolverine number 1. And that's because it's the character's first appearance. And in this particular case, this is the first comic book appearance of Boba Fett, as well as the other bounty hunters as well, Dengar, IG-88. They've all got their fans. So this particular one is almost like you could call it a minor key issue. And after number 1, this one is actually quite sought after. So if you do come across this one, do grab it if you find it fairly cheap, because apart from number 1, and 107, which is the final issue, this one is one of those ones that I think is a rising star, and a bit of a case of watch this space, because I think it's going to be a good little investment, that. Then we've got the introduction of Lando, of course, on Cloud City, a place which gets revisited over the coming years. And then the final conclusion to The Empire Strikes Back, which is in issue 44, Jules, a Dark Lord. So that finishes the adaptation of The Empire Strikes Back, and what a fantastic adaptation it was. I mean, really, really good. And of course, you've now got all these new locations, characters, and scenarios that could be called on to extend the story while we're waiting for the next movie to come out. So we've got the premise that Darth Vader is still searching for Luke Skywalker. He's intent on bringing Luke over to the dark side. You see this one here. So once again, you know, it's Imperial probe droid. So that was introduced at the very start of Empire Strikes Back. They've now can use that. There's other mini-series and sort of a few ongoing series that happen within the comics run. So you've got, they go to a place called Droid World. There's a new space station built called the Tarkin, if you can believe it. I thought that was pretty funny. And a fateful encounter with the Last Jedi. Well, we'll get to that in a minute. The rebels finally find a secure home base on the planet of Arbra, the home of the Hoojibs. Oh God, small telepathic rabbit-like creatures. Oh dear, well, we'll get to those as well. Lando does return to Cloud City, where the Empire have taken over and Lobot has gone mad. And Luke finds a love interest in Shiri Bree, but the romance is doomed to fail as the young Jedi ends up shooting her down. So there you go. So all of that happens over these next few issues. This is the Droid World one. And I know the UK Star Wars Weekly actually swiped some of these covers directly, but because the UK comic had to come up with a new cover every week rather than the Marvel comic here having to do it just once a month, the British comic did get a little bit more creative. In these later issues, they actually started using photograph covers, and they're fantastic, whereas these are all artwork. 48, 49, so here we are at The Last Jedi. Well, would you believe it? So once again, it's the comic predicting the future. Nothing to do with The Last Jedi that we know, of course, but, you know, interesting all the same. And then the first mini milestone is issue number 50, and they went to town. They got a bit of a gold-sized, like, painted cover here, and they've done a very good job on it. And it's double-sized, this one, so it's a little bit dearer. But yeah, number 50, the first milestone, that one. And something a little bit special to commemorate it by. So quite nice, that. Quite nice. Number 51. So once again, they're using some of the elements introduced in Empire with the ATST. Back to normality a little bit with these. That was a Walt Simonson cover. I recognise the signature there. Not his best work, but that was his style. That's quite nice with the TIE bomber there. I would imagine that the Marvel artists used everything at their disposal for reference, probably the trading cards as well. I would be surprised if they didn't use those. Number 54 there. Once again, as I mentioned in the last video, you've got this is the newsstand version, the square box, and this diamond one is the direct market version. That's number 55. There is this is when Lando returns to Cloud City and Lobot's gone mental. That's quite a nice little subplot. There is another one which over the issues, and the rebels go searching for a pair of missing pilots, Ty Vanis and Yom Argo, and they're in possession of the Bothan tapes. The path to find the pair of pilots is long and hard, but they do finally find them, and it's not what they expect. So I'm not going to spoil that for you, but that's another little subplot that goes on. So this is all taking place on Bespin, and what a good backdrop that would be actually for a comic strip. You could find out so much more about the infrastructure of the Cloud City, what they did, and there's so much that could have been explored there. Number 59 here, and number 60. There's a guy who looks suspiciously like George Lucas on the cover there. There's 61. So, I remember this one. Yeah, Luke's a pariah. So once again, Walt Simonson's taken over the sort of look and feel of the comic with the cover artwork and a lot of the interior artwork. And they're treading water. So they're going through the motions, as it were, trying to come up with new storylines till we can get over the line for Return of the Jedi. Some of them are better than others, basically. The price has changed again now, it's 60 cents. And some of these are better than others. They are a little bit hit or miss. There were a whole batch, because in Britain the comic was coming out every single week. Although it mainly, the Star Wars UK mainly reprinted everything that was in these ones, they soon ran out of material. So in the UK, we were treated to extra Star Wars stories, some of them by very prominent writers, such as Alan Moore, who obviously went on to do Watchmen and amongst other fantastic comic book series. And these have thankfully all been reprinted. They were all reprinted, the whole lot, by Dark Horse Comics a few years back in mega graphic novels. So if you do fancy reading the stories of these, they are accessible. They are really good fun. They're almost like little time capsules before the time when today when we have, so much Star Wars. This is another absolutely great cover to number 68 with a lovely Boba Fett on the front. How cool is that one? That is really, really good, isn't it? They did a really good... The cover artist is Gene Day on that one. They caught Leia very well as well on that one. So that's a really nice cover. Number 69 there. Cool stuff. Number 70. Han Solo one there again. So this must have been set a little bit before he was captured by Boba Fett, because they don't really know. And in a lot of cases, you'll see that what probably would have been Luke and Han fighting side by side is now Luke and Lando fighting side by side. And in fact, there we are. The quest for Han Solo ends here. Well, it didn't quite end there. I think that was a bit of a trying to tease you in there. Oh dear, look. They're about to go into carbonite. Double jeopardy. So these sorts of things, this is so of the period. So we're looking at around 1981 now when these were published, and this is because it was published by Marvel, because you've got a pink-skinned alien there. That just wouldn't happen. It's just Marvel of the period. That's what it is. It's Marvel of this time. Number 74 there. Number 75, another mini milestone there. Number 75. And we were almost at the point where a Jedi was going to come along. 76. And just like the tail end of the Star Wars run, the quality just before the new adaptation goes right downhill, which is such a shame, isn't it? But there you go. I mean, Walt Simonson was the main artist at this time, but there were other contributing artists as well. So Gene Day, Kerry Gammill, Bob Layton, and Rob Friends. They're the sort of this is a Bob Layton one here. So they do sort of take over from Simonson. Number 79, just a couple more. 80, and then finally number 81, which is absolutely beautiful, lovely painted cover there by Palmer. And then that was it. So around this time, around the point of issue 81, was when the 4-part Return of the Jedi movie adaptation launched. So that will conclude this second look at these Star Wars comics. And part 3, which will have the run from number 82 up to 107, the Return of the Jedi miniseries, some of the droids and Ewoks, and some of the other bits and bobs, that will be coming up very, very soon. So there you go, that concludes the second look at these vintage Marvel comics. Now, if you have enjoyed this video, you won't have to wait too long for part 3, which will round up the rest of the series and also look at some of the offshoots, the Jedi mini-series, droids, Ewoks, and my foreign Star Wars comics as well. So that's coming up soon. So if you have enjoyed the video, do please give it a thumbs up. And if you've not already, do please consider subscribing for regular vintage Star Wars content. Thank you once again for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.